Good morning. My name is Marcia Stromgren. Thank you for tuning in to Just the Facts. Tuning into Just the Facts. Sorry about that, folks. I have in my studio today Jim Booth. He's running for council at large for the city. And welcome, Jim. It's good to have you with us this morning. Jim, I'd like to start out by telling our viewers a little bit about yourself. And so please tell us just a little bit about your background and then why are you running for city council at large?
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. I have spent 22 years in the military, retired as an E8 from the Air National Guard Base. I was on the Housing Redevelopment Authority for 6 years. I was chairman of the board there for 3 years. I was on the Charter Commission, Edison School Board. I was on the board for the John Bear Grease Sled Dog Marathon. I have been in Duluth since 1981. I raised 3 children in Duluth, and I raised 2 of the children as a single parent, and I'm remarried now. And I have 3 grandbabies as of today, so that's pretty fun. Thank you. And I'm running to make a difference. Everybody on that is running for the council at large is pretty much the same political party. I feel that we need to have somebody that runs against them and to give people a choice. I'm a fiscal conservative. I would put my mark as a social moderate, meaning that if the program is working, I'll fund it. If the program isn't working, I won't fund it. There's some really big issues with some of the programs in Duluth right now that we need to look at and do a better job at. One of them is mental health. We don't have the facilities we need for mental health right now. We have one short-term transitional 10-day stay facility that just opened up. Center City Housing is building a longer place where people could go for a couple of months and get the help they need to transition out into the community again. But currently, that's one of the issues that I'd be working on that I truly believe in. That's a social issue, and I truly believe in mental health. Okay.
What are your main issues for your term?
Well, the first thing
is there one in particular?
Yeah, the first thing we have to tackle is the roads and infrastructure. As all the forums we've been at, it's one of the questions that come up. Everybody talks about we have to go get funding from the federal government, the state government, the county government. The issue with doing that, number one, we should be doing that already. And if we're not doing that, then shame on the city council and shame on the mayor. But if we're not getting money already from Rick Nolan and Amy Klobuchar and Roger Reinert and Jennifer Schultz and Eric Simonson, then shame on them. And if the county just raised taxes 0.5% for county for roads, the problem is Duluth only has about 5 county roads in the city of Duluth. So the majority of that money is earmarked for the northern part of St. Louis County. Very few of those dollars will come down to the southern part of St. Louis County.
Interesting.
And so what I proposed is that over the last 8 years, this present administration has taken our rainy day fund from a negative to a very healthy positive, to a point where the state says we're completely funded as far as the rainy day fund goes. And so we could take that money that we continually put into that rainy day fund and put it towards the roads. The second idea I had is to we have a 1% sales tax that the city collects that's unassigned. It goes into the general fund, about $12 million a year. Future proposals say that it's going to increase every year. So I'm saying take 1/4% of that, $4 million, and put it towards roads. First thing my opponents say, well, that's a cut. You got to figure out what you're going to do. Well, if it continues to go up, we can put that increase of revenue every year back into the general fund. Also, our property taxes are scheduled to the revenue portion of the property tax is scheduled to continue to go up. So we could put that back into the general fund and make up for that $4 million or whatever that we take out of the fund and assign to roads. So there's ways of doing it without raising taxes and without making cuts across the board. These are ideas that nobody's really talked about, and they're there if you read the budget, and nothing is easy, but at least it's a sensible way of funding the roads. The last thing I'll say on roads is that one of my opponents keeps saying we need $30 million for 30 years. $30 million is 1/3 of our budget. It's not going to happen. And if we don't have if we can't agree on $6 to $8 million, my proposal, how are we going to agree on $30 million?
Okay, now, you've made some good points here about the road that I would like to just briefly say something. Okay. First of all, municipalities are not supposed to be funding all of the extras. And I will only list a couple, such as ski hills and aquariums and whatever. But they are supposed to fix the roads. The infrastructure, not just the roads, but the infrastructure that's under those roads. It's over 100 years old, and it's literally falling apart, and so there are many problems. As was revealed to me recently, is okay, we've got this cold climate that actually has a big effect on that. I know that full well, having a septic system. I live in the country. So, okay, if we're putting all this money, we have a pie. Let's remember this. I learned this in school. You have a pie, and you cut that pie into the certain amounts of monies that go here to this and here to that. Pretty soon, those pieces of pie keep getting smaller for the infrastructure, for the fire, for the police, because you got to cut a portion out to go over here to bike paths and ski hills and aquariums and golf courses, you name it, because these are wants of the people. So really what you're talking about, from my understanding, is the needs. And surely the roads are a pretty pathetic situation. And if I were to dig down or be with the crews that do the digging and see the infrastructure of our sewer systems and our water pipes and stuff, I would probably have a nightmare at night thinking about it. So what you're saying is there is enough money for the roads, but it hasn't really been used. But you know what? I don't know why we need to go to the federal government or the state government when we are being taxed. Our homes are being taxed. Everything you buy except clothing and food is taxed. And it's not that we don't have enough revenue. It's how we spend the revenue. Would you agree or disagree on that?
That's a very valid point. It's how you look at that pie and how you want to divide up that pie. And infrastructure and roads and public safety, fire, and police are supposedly the first things that get funded. The first thing that my opponents will say when they look at my plan is, oh, we're going to cut public safety, we're going to cut fire, and we're going to cut safety. Yeah. They always scare people, and it's not necessary. There's other ways of doing what I suggest we do without cutting the public safety, without cutting fire, and without cutting the police department. So don't believe in the scare tactics that my opponents put out there. The second thing is, as I closed in the Duluth News Tribune forum, I said that hard decisions are going to be made in the next 4 to 8 years. We're not going to be funding amenities. We're going to be funding the needs of the people, and we're going to have to stop funding amenities. My opponents will say that the bike trails have matching funds. So if we match this money with this money, then we get all the money. Problem is, we don't have the money to match, but they keep finding money to put towards these matching funds. So Duluth gets the matching funds and some other city doesn't get the matching funds. Look at your home budget. If somebody said to you, you can get a TV if you put a third down, we'll give the other 2/3. Well, yeah, everybody would want to do that, but you don't have the funds to do it, so you can't do it without harming something else in your budget. That's what Duluth and that's what the City Council is doing currently today. They're taking money to grab these matching funds, so nobody else gets the matching funds, but they're damaging another portion of the budget by doing that. For the last 30 years I've lived in Duluth, we've talked about roads and infrastructure. Not much has been done about roads and infrastructure. And I suggest that if we don't start doing something today, 30 years from now we're going to be sitting at the same spot and we're going to be talking about roads and infrastructure. It's a way to get elected, but then it goes away and nobody wants to talk about it.
It's all about getting elected, folks. It's not knowing what to do when you get in there. It's all about getting elected and being controlled from other people outside the district. I've seen it long enough, so I understand that. The Duluth News-Tribune said you have a zany plan for the zoo. What is that?
Well, we all have been talking about what do we want the zoo to look like. And so one day I was sitting there and I was thinking about what could we do with the zoo that's outside the box. And we have a lot of people out there that are rescuing animals. And they have their own funding.
Yeah.
And they rescue wild animals, and they rescue farm animals, and they rescue domestic animals.
Right.
So I was thinking, why couldn't we make it a rescue zoo, where these people would bring their funding so that they have a place to make healthy these animals they're rescuing. And then the veterinarian clinics from the UMD and from Duluth Business College could use that center as a training center to train their students. We, the public, could walk through and see these damaged animals and watch them progress until they get healthy. Then they could also have an adoption program to adopt them out. We could really be a model for the entire United States with the zoo. And yes, it's thinking
zany ideas. That's
it's
cool.
thinking outside the box, but why could we not have a rescue zoo? It wouldn't cost the city much money at all because each one of the entities would bring in their own funding for it because they're doing it now. But we would have an admission fee that would cover the costs of keeping the zoo up, the lights, the electricity, the upkeep of it, and things of that type. But it would be something that everybody could take ownership in.
I like zany ideas, Jim. That's really forward thinking, I think. And you know what? It's interesting that original zoo that has really been, it was popular when I was a kid because there weren't so many attractions to go to. That's another thing. We have so many attractions that how many in your budget can you fit in 1 year? I mean, we're a tourist attraction up here, but those of us that live here can't even afford to do it because we're being taxed straight out of it to pay for everything that we should be paying for in the first place. And that zany zoo was given to the city. It was a person's personal menagerie how many years ago, and now it's become a problem because there's no longer the funds from the people, the public, that would go in there and visit it. So, and then it's regulated. So, I mean, there's more cost involved. Great idea, like that. What are the safety issues and your solutions for the city in Park Point?
There was a 82-page report that was done in 2012 by the direction of the City Council and the mayor to just figure that out. And it came out with 3 findings. The 3 findings were one that, according to OSHA, on every rig that goes out, you need 4 firefighters before they can start knocking down a fire, 2 to go in, 2 to stand by. According to the current manning, we have about 4 positions that are undermanned, that are either undermanned by 1 person or 2 people. So we would need 12 additional firefighters because they work on a 24-hour shift, so you need 3 people for each one of the openings. That's number 1. I would look at finding a way to fund the firefighters so that they would be fully manned according to OSHA, because currently they can't go into fire until enough people get there, and so they are not allowed by regulation to go start working on that fire until there's people there.
So there's only 3 on the Park Point right now.
Well, there's not on Park Point. They closed the fire station number 5.
Okay, they did close it. Okay.
And so what happens when the bridge goes up
Yes.
is there's no public safety, there's no ambulance, and there's no fire over the bridge. Again, it was addressed in this report that what they could do is bring a rig down with a paramed and a firefighter on it, park it over the bridge when the bridge goes up. At least that would give them some type of rescue. Now you got to realize, currently today we have 2 hotels. We're going to have 3 down there. We have 2 nursing homes down there. We have the beaches, and we have two to three different marinas down there. We have an airport down there, and we have all the citizens down there. When that bridge goes up, there's no public safety, no way to access the bridge. Yes, they can call ahead, and yes, they can get the bridge to go down, but if there's a freighter coming in, they can't stop it. They can't stop it. So it would cost about $10,000 a year to bring a rig down, have it parked over there, and have some type of first response. The last thing that that report said is that, and this is this is really good for the fire department. They arrive at a scene 2 to 3 minutes before Gold Cross, but they're first responders. They're not paramedics, and so they can't start life-saving procedures because they're not paramedics. Again, the report said it would cost minimum amount of money to train the first responders to become paramedics so that when they arrive 3 minutes before Gold Cross, they can start the procedures, and then once Gold Cross arrives, Gold Cross would take over. I know if my life was being threatened and I'm dying and the ambulance came second and the fire department came first, I'd want the fire department to start working on me, but they can't because they're not paramedics. So there's very cost-effective, very inexpensive ways of getting a couple of these issues taken care of, but the current city council and the current mayor has buried the report. They were given the report. In fact, there was a 10-page report done by the citizens, and they have done nothing.
What is your stance on the library issue?
Well, as I said in one of my forums, the library isn't broken, but it needs to be fixed.
Quickly.
The heating and cooling system in the library is what really needs to be addressed, and it could be done cost effectively. The building itself is relatively new as buildings go. It was built in the 70s. I would hate to see anything happen to it, but I think it has to be fixed, and then there has to be some updates done for the computer systems and plugins and stuff like that, because back in the 70s we didn't have that. So my solution for that would be to fix it and not to, I would never vote for a new one.
Would you say that approximately about $3 million is certainly wiser than tearing down and building for $33 million?
If that's the figure that the study has come out with, that it's $3 million to upgrade, we definitely could fund that. 2012, we had the levy increase for libraries and parks. We could use that money to do that with. So yes, I would be for fixing it up. I'm not for tearing it down, and I'm not for building a new one.
Housing always seems to be an issue. As a past member of the HRA, what is your opinion of the need for more low-income housing?
Well, this was brought up at one of the forums also, is that there's a misconception in this town that all of the low and moderate income housing is in the central hillside in Lincoln Park. The HRA has done a very, very excellent job of doing scattered housing throughout the community of Duluth, on Lakeside, in Duluth Hillside, on Duluth Heights, and in Piedmont Heights. I had a map with me that would show you all of the scattered sites, and it's pretty equal, and it's pretty much all over the city. Two of the newest multifamily facilities, one of them is up in Duluth Heights and Hermantown, and it's called the Matterhorn. It's nowhere near Lincoln Park, and it's nowhere near the hillside. And then the one that was at the top of Mesabi Avenue, the project that was there, we tore that down, and today it has some of the very best housing that's available with some of the most spectacular views that you could ever get. And so I think the HRA is doing a very good job. I think they can continue to do a good job. And I just want to put an end to this misconception that most of the low and moderate income housing is on the hillside, because it really isn't. And the last thing I'll say about that is Section 8 vouchers can be used in St. Louis County, Cook County, Lake County, and Douglas County. So you can take those and find somebody who will rent to you with the Section 8 voucher and live almost anywhere you want.
And the Section 8 money comes from?
The federal government.
Okay. Do you think the homeless should be included in the Duluth Human Rights?
Well, that was another question, again, that we had at a forum. And I talked to the Human Rights Office in Duluth, and they were wonderful. And my question to them is, okay, now we include them in this. What does this do for them? And the Human Rights Office said, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out. So my suggestion would be work with the Human Rights Commission to come up with some concrete ideas of how including them is going to help them. Just by giving lip service to that doesn't do anybody any good. One of the things that was brought up, and this is just food for thought for people that don't think about this stuff. You and I, we can go down in Park Point on a nice day, we can lay down on the beach, we can take a nap, nobody's going to say a word. If you're homeless, you go down to Park Point, you lay down on the beach, the police are called because you're a vagrant. And then the police come and they have to wake you up and then you have to move on. That's probably not correct, and we have to take a look at, are they doing anything wrong? And I don't believe that sleeping on a park bench or sleeping on Park Point is something that's really causing a problem. So these are the issues that the Human Rights Commission has to deal with, is looking at the needs of the homeless versus the needs of the community, and that's something that I'd be willing to work with.
Well, that question brings to mind a thought, which is, okay, it seems to me that the homeless issue. It's not an easy. That's not a solution to the problem. What it does is it heaps on more bad decisions that could potentially have ramifications for. It's like, don't fix it unless it needs to be fixed. But in this case, if you're fixing a problem with bad regulation, the ramifications from that we can't see, and then we have more problems from it. But we have a lot of mental illness. We have a lot of homelessness because of mental illness. But we also have a lot of lazy people in America who plain don't want to work. They want to live off of somebody else. So a lot of this homelessness is caused by their own actions. It's not my fault, and it's not your fault, and it's not anybody's fault. But they've chosen this way to live, and it's easy for them. We've always had that. It's not new. And so we're expecting others to fix, and it goes back to the statement I heard, crying liberals. These people want to fix everything, make themselves feel good because they're helping somebody else out, but they're not getting to the root of the problem. Why are these people homeless in the first place? What's missing in their lives that made them choose the road of not being responsible people? We're supposed to be raising people that are giving into society, not constantly sucking from it. And I think by including them in the human rights issue, we're going to add another problem on here that we don't see. So I don't know what you think about that, but our time is getting low here. That's what we got left in about 5 minutes. So what are your plans for the rest of the campaign season?
Oh, I'm very thankful it's drawing to an end. It started in July when I announced the very last day that you could announce. I thought we needed a choice, so I announced we've been working hard, knocking on doors, doing yard signs, going to all the forums. I do a lot of research before I go to a forum. I'm probably the most knowledgeable candidate at any of the forums. I have been told by other opponents after the forums are done, so you had all the answers again, which they're trying to rip on me, but I just think that's just a really positive, because I do the research. The rest of the campaign is going to be exactly what we've been doing. We're going to be door knocking. I'm waving signs between 6:45 and 8 o'clock in the morning all over Duluth. Actually, Carl Spring started that, and I've joined him on the lakeside part a couple of days a week, and then I'm going out to the west part of Duluth for a couple of days a week in the central hillside. So I've been bebopping back and forth, but I won't take that idea as mine. That was a Carl idea. And then we have some fundraisers that are being held for Chuck Horton that I'll be attending, and we'll be doing lit drops. And if anybody wants to help, they can certainly go to my website. We have sign up, www.boothforduluth.com, and we can use all the assistance we can get.
And the funds.
And
it's
the funds.
expensive
You
to
can also
run a
donate
campaign.
online.
Well, you know, Jim, if I were in Duluth, I would certainly support you.
Well, thank you.
You have some of the answers that people need to hear, and you certainly have done your homework. I commend you for all the hard work, and I know what it's like, having been in 2 campaigns myself. You're doing a fine job, and I just wish you the best.
Thank
And
you.
on November 3rd, you need to really consider. You need to consider what the future of Duluth is going to look like. Do you want people who know what they're talking about the issues, and can make healthy decisions that are going to help your future, or add more burden and more cost to your already stretched budget in taxes? This is something to really think about, folks. November 3rd. Let's get out and support people who are thinking and have some answers to some of the problems. And let's get that zany zoo idea going. It seems to me as a solution for the problem of those critters. And as an animal owner and lover, I can't think of a better way to take care of the problem. I mean, it's new, it's cool. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.
Thank you very much.